Hello, thank you so much for clicking and for watching this video. Something a little bit different today. No football today. I know a lot of my videos are about football, but occasionally I do videos and other things that I think are important or I think should be discussed. And today I want to talk about cancel culture, really. And something that I was reading on Twitter this morning, and I'll give you a bit of background on why I was searching for this person on Twitter and what I've seen has happened. But um, I was a fan when it was on. I really enjoyed the Kevin Bishop show. I thought it was a fun little sketch show. I think he's a funny guy, and I just wanted to go onto Twitter and send him a tweet saying, that was a funny show. Da da da. As you do sometimes with actors or actresses or whoever. Um, so I went on there and I couldn't find him. And then I started finding tweets where people were saying that he was racist. Saw a video on YouTube that someone had made that was effectively calling him out. Um, and I saw people saying, oh, he did blackface in the past. And then I saw people saying, oh, he's an anti vaxxer and all this stuff. First off, on the anti vaxxer thing, if somebody doesn't want to have a vaccine, or, and again, I don't know if that's true or not. I've only seen, a screenshot, a small screenshot that suggests he is. But, you know, um, if he doesn't want to, or if anyone doesn't want to have a vaccine, or if somebody doesn't want to wear a mask, that's their opinion. That's their opinion. And even though I think you should have it, my opinion isn't the gospel. And that's the problem that I have with social media, um, particularly over the last year because we've been in lockdown and we've probably spent a lot more time on there. I think you can get drawn in. You can get drawn into social media. I don't think you fully realise it. I've probably posted opinions on there. In fact, I definitely have because I've gone back sometimes and read something that I've posted and thought, you know what, that was my opinion then. That isn't my opinion now. And I just think, that is his opinion at this moment in time, or that is how he feels, and he's entitled to do that. But for a group of people to sort of drive somebody off Twitter, because I'm assuming, and again, I'm assuming that's what's happened because there was a lot of people that weren't happy with the fact that, he's an anti-vaxxer or he has these different opinions, or the fact that, he did comedy several years ago that is now deemed to be politically incorrect. First of all, I think you have to look at the context of a joke. You have to look at the context of what somebody was trying to say. I can remember last year, Channel 4 removed a scene from Peep Show that I thought was a really funny joke, and that involved blackface, but it wasn't just there to sort of perpetuate a stereotype. It was a character. Basically, I'll give you a background on the joke. And how I read it was that Jeremy, in the first episode of series two, Jeremy's going out with um, a woman. He's got a new girlfriend, and she's so enlightened and so spiritual that she wants to tackle um, every taboo that there is, every sexual taboo. And I don't know why it is a taboo, but she thinks that basically uh, having sex with a black man is taboo. That's what I'm assuming the joke is. And Jeremy's not black, so she asks him to black up, which he's very uncomfortable with. And that is the joke. It's the absurdity of him going along with this thing that he's uncomfortable with, to please his girlfriend. Now, she is the one that's out of order for that's the only way I can phrase it really. Now that I'm speaking about it, she's out of order, but she thinks she's enlightened. So it's the absurdity of the situation. That's the joke. It's not because it's perpetuating a stereotype. That's why that's funny, and that's why I think it's important. But of course, it was censored, and now that scene isn't there. The scene's not there on Channel 4 on 4OD, and that's a shame, really. And I think that is the thing that I don't like about social media, about this kind of mob law, this mob rule. It's not a law, but it's sort of this thing where people are nobody wants to be wrong and everybody thinks that they're right. So what effectively happens is you have a lot of people just finding things from years ago that were probably progressive and clever and smart and all that sort of thing at the time. You know, they were progressive and they were smart and they were funny at the time. And then what happens is over time, it becomes politically incorrect, and people want to find these things and dig them up and then hold them up as the sort of as a way of saying this person is wrong. This was completely wrong, and I don't really believe that. I don't think it's good to go through and sort of airbrush through history. You know, if you want freedom of speech, it can't just be on your terms. You know, you can't just say I want freedom of speech, but you can't say this. Now, I understand when things are extreme. When things are this is why you can never have complete freedom of speech, even though we want it, and I believe we have it. You know, if somebody has extreme views, if somebody is perpetuating a stereotype, then I don't believe that's right. But going back, if somebody has an opinion on vaccination, they should be allowed to go on social media and air that opinion. This is the problem that I have. You know, that people, you know, I don't. This is why I don't like the word. You know, when they say we live in a tolerant society, because we don't live in a tolerant society. We don't. We live in a very, and it's definitely something that I've noticed over the last year is that we live in a tribal society. Perhaps now more than ever, certainly in my lifetime, you used to have the left and the right, but there are factions, aren't there? There are factions, and I suppose like if you're like me, who all of his life has been on the left, you've probably moved more centre left. But if anybody saw this and heard me say that, they'd probably say, "Oh, well, really, you're on the right, where I'm not. I'm centre left." There are a lot of things most things I agree with on the left, but there are a lot of things that I don't agree with on the left, and this sort of dominating people with language and putting people down and putting people in the place in this very tribal way of existing now. It makes me very uncomfortable, and I just think, you know, with things like comedy, you know, you are going to find things that make you uncomfortable if you go through history. You know, I can remember watching things years ago and noticing pieces of dialogue in things. I'm not going to name them now, but I would notice a piece of dialogue and think, what does that say about the writer? What does that say about the character? What does that say about us as society that we are laughing at that, or that people are laughing at that? You know, but I never for one moment thought that person or that show should be cancelled because they said something that I didn't like. I think it was good because I could then go away and have conversations. And this is the problem. Whereas if you just cancel things, or if you just, you know, censor things, cancel things, you stop people viewing them, you take away the ability for people to have those conversations. People can't have those conversations if they're not allowed access to things. You know, there are lots of things that have gone on in the media recently, which I'm not going to talk about because I don't think it's the time or place, and I am tempted to do videos on very specific things. But here and now, it's this censorship and this idea that your opinion is the right opinion and that everything that happened in the past is wrong. That makes me very uncomfortable. And what you should be doing if you if something um, if something upsets you or offends you, I don't think it's enough to just not watch it. I mean, that is an option. I think what we should be doing is sitting down and having discussions about these things. But I don't think you should be denying people the right to see them. I don't think you should. You know, you can. I mean, there's also this kind of weird double standard as well, is that some things are acceptable. It's like I love South Park, but they've done so many things over the years, and I suppose it's like nothing is off topic. Disability, race, sexism, misogyny, so many things that they've done in that show. You've got two white actors doing the voices of characters from all different walks of life, from all ethnicities, disabilities, and great. They do it. They just do it, and nobody's nothing's off limits. And I don't think it's just because it's a cartoon that it should be acceptable. It's funny, and they're trying to make a point. And this is what I'm saying about the context. Like, what is the context of a joke? Sometimes that gets lost because I think people look at people just look at something head on. People look at something head on, and they don't think beyond what they see. They don't think about the structure of a joke or the meaning behind a joke. And again, like, also it's like people can make jokes, and those jokes might just not be funny. They might be in bad taste. You know, it's not the end of the world. Like I say, if something is perpetuating a stereotype, if something is extreme, if something is punching down, as the old phrase goes, then I completely understand. But if somebody's just made a bad joke or a joke in poor taste, I don't think it's really anything that needs to be addressed. Really, I just don't think it's that important, because people don't get angry about the things that they should get angry about. They don't get angry about war. They don't get angry about famine. Um, they get angry about a bloke on the telly, 13 years ago doing a joke in poor taste. Because I guess it's easy to get angry at those things, isn't it? Because people will pay more attention to that, sadly, than they do, poverty, homelessness, war. Um, so yeah, so I just think it's a shame, really, if the mob rule has run a comedian, off of social media because he did something they didn't like. And again, I don't know. That was just what I thought when I saw it. But it's a funny person. He's a nice guy from what I've seen, and it's a shame that these kind of things happen. But you've got to be very careful these days. You've got to be very careful, because there are people out there that are unfortunately gonna ruin or can ruin your reputation. And the way that it works is, if enough if there's enough violent venom on social media, then that spreads, and then people that want to put that person in one of their shows, they might think, oh, I can't put this person in because it'll have a negative impact on the show. And that's the way that it works. These things spiral out of control. But yeah, and that's basically what I think. Really, I don't really like cancel culture. I don't really like this sort of mob mentality on social media. I don't like this idea that you're right, you're wrong for having a different opinion. That makes me very uncomfortable, because we're supposed to be living in a society where we have freedom of speech, and we can say what we think. And I think as long as you're constructive, as long as you're fair, then I don't see any problem with having an opinion that's different than someone else's. And this is, again, like, it seems to be this thing where if you deviate from the norm, if you deviate from the popular opinion, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, and that is a very tribal thing, and I don't feel comfortable with it, and I've experienced it myself. I've said things before that I just have an opinion on, and I've basically been told, like, you shouldn't think that, or to paraphrase people, or you're wrong, or what do you know? It's very condescending, and it does make you sort of not want to give your opinion, because not because people will challenge you, but because people will lambast you for having a different opinion. And I think I don't want to live in a world where everybody has the same opinion. Ultimately, um, I want to live in a world where people are kind, people are good, people are honest, and people are fair. That's what I want to I want to. That's the kind of world that I want to live in. You know, I want a world where people are treated based on their character, not the skin color or the sexuality or any of those things. But you know, maybe I'm too idealistic, but that's what I would hope for, and I think that's what most people hope for. But unfortunately, we don't live in a world like that. I think most people want everyone to think the same as them, and I just don't think that's ever going to happen. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, why not subscribe, leave a like, and of course, leave any thoughts, comments, and feedback on the video. I'd love to know what you think about sort of cancel culture or censorship or anything along those lines. It's just good to have a discussion on these things, and of course keep it civil. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all soon.